Hi, today we're going to be working on Photoshop Assignment 13. Now this one came as a bit of an inspiration from a campaign that MTS did a couple years ago where they made this snowman as one of their advertising campaigns, and the guy who made it made quite a bit of money. So I figured I would incorporate this into our lesson to show you what you can do with Photoshop. So if we look at Assignment 13, I would open up one of these PDF documents to follow along with. It's going to go through everything that I'm going through in a very, very precise step-by-step manner with screen captures. Okay? So I would probably follow along with this. But watch the video and see if it makes sense to you. Or refer to the video if you have any extreme difficulties. Okay? So, the first step is to create a brand new file. I'm going to create a new file. Let's call this Soretta _ assignment 13. I'm going to make the width, again, make sure this is set to pixels, 1280 by 1024. And leave the resolution at 72. Click OK. Here's our blank canvas. Okay? Now the first step we're going to do here is we're going to take this rectangle tool and I'm going to set the color to white. And I'm going to draw a rectangle that covers this entire canvas. Okay? We're now going to add a layer style to this by clicking on this, and we are going to open up the blending options, and we are going to add a gradient overlay. Now, what we're going to do here is learn how to edit this gradient overlay. So, first of all, we'll leave this as normal. We'll leave this set to 100%. Let's change this from a linear to a radial gradient. Let's change this to -31. And let's turn this up to 117. Okay? Now what we need to do is open up the gradient editor. So let's click on the gradient tool to open up our gradient editor. And we're going to need 3 colors here. So here's one. Put it about there. There's 2, and let's add a 3rd one there. Now what we're going to do is modify these colors. So I'm going to double click on this to open up the color editor. And I know exactly what colors I want to use here. I'm going to use CDF 55F for FF, like that. Okay? So that's the color I'm going to use for the inner part of the circle. The next one I'm going to use is going to be 0067A9. Click OK. And the last one is going to be 040023. Click OK. And that's good. Click OK. Click OK. And we're on our way to creating this background. Now notice again, I can see around my canvas. That's going to be beneficial for the next couple of steps. Now we're going to use our pen tool again, which we used in one of our previous assignments. And we want to make sure this time that it's set to shapes. Okay? So we're going to create a snowbank here. Click, I can bend this a little bit if I want to. Click, 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 and click. Now it's filled it with kind of an odd. It's weird that it happened that way. That's okay. We will just step backward, step backward, step backward, step backward, step backward, and step backward, and one final time. I guess I need to create a new layer for this shape. So let's try that again. Sorry for the confusion. Make sure you set this to shape. Click, bend, there, 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 and there. So there's our shape now on a separate layer. I'm not sure why that first mistake happened, but mistakes are good. Show us we're still human. Help us learn. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add an effect to this as well. So bring up our blending options. We are going to add an inner glow. Okay, let's change this to screen. Change this to 45. That's an inner shadow. Sorry about that. Okay, so 45. Let's change this to white. Click OK. Let's leave this on edge. Leave this at 0. Let's set this to 35. Leave this at 50. And rather than or with this gradient overlay, we need to edit that. We don't want it to look like this. Okay, so we're going to leave our blend mode at normal. We're going to change this back to a linear gradient. Set this to -49. And put this back to 100%. Okay. And now what we need to do is click on our gradient editor to bring this up. And let's move this color over here and let's grab this one and get rid of it. So we now need to we now need to change these colors here. So this color I am going to set to be 004 D8E. Pretty bright color. Click OK. And this one we are going to change to 68C4ED. Click OK. Click OK. So there is our first snowbank. All right. Click OK. And so far so good. Now what we're going to do here on this snowbank, and I can move this up a bit, is we're going to add some trees. Now the way to do that is if we take our pen tool, which we've used already, down here in the custom shapes, okay, by pressing U, there are a bunch of pre-built shapes that we can use here. Now if the shape we're looking for is not here, we can use this little flyout menu and click on all and then click append, which will give us some more options. And the one I'm looking for is right there for our happy little pine tree. I'm going to put one right there. Okay. And I can always get rid of these effects because I probably don't want those on there right now. And I will add another tree right here. I'll add one here. I'll add one here. I'll add a couple over here. And make them different sizes, just for fun. Okay, now we need to color these. So we're going to make this a little different. So let's start with my bottom tree here. So here is my very first tree. And what I want to do is I'm just going to add a color overlay. Okay, I'm going to click on here and change this color to be 005 78 C. All right. And maybe make that a little bit darker. Click OK. Then I can go to my next shape and do the same thing. So what I'm going to do is open up the blending options, add a color overlay, and this one I'll make 00578C. Again, I'm going to just change that color a little bit because it's hard to see. And that's okay too. The idea here is just to make these trees a little bit different in color, so they look like they're kind of shadowed. Here again, add a color overlay, and this time we'll just kind of guess at the color. There we go. Click OK. And I'll do one more tree, and I won't worry about these other ones here, but you can color those as well. So here I will add the color overlay, and I will pick maybe a little bit darker color this time. Click OK. Alright, so do that to the rest of your trees as well. You can add more trees if you would like. Now, what we need to do is, again, using our custom shape tool, we are going to, we have a couple different snowflakes here. Okay, so we're going to add some snowflakes at random places around here. Make sure your color's set to white, and you can add these and maybe I'll change up the style of snowflake that I'm using. Okay, and you can add some of the third style of snowflake too if you want. I think there's only 3 styles here. Yes, 3 styles, so you can add a couple of these too. Make it look nice. Nice, peaceful, serene winter setting. Okay, now we're going to go back to our pen tool, and we are going to create, let's create a new layer, and we're going to create a second snowbank here. And there's our second snowbank. Okay. Again, we want to open up the effects panel and we want to add our inner glow again. Make sure it's set to screen, set it to 75. Leave this as softer, leave that as edge. Set this to 43. Okay. 50, that's all good. And we also want to change the color of this. So go to color overlay, and the color we're going to change this to, I believe, is A7 FE F6. Yeah, that's it. Click OK. Almost there. Now, finally, keeping this pen tool, we are going to add one more new layer, and we are going to add one final snowdrift here. Keep this one nice and simple. Okay, and our color overlay, we are just going to leave this one as white, actually. But what we're going to do is, for our inner glow, Set that to 75, 43, 50. Okay, that's all good. And for our gradient overlay, what we're going to do here is click on our gradient editor, leave that as normal, leave this as 100. Set this to be something like that. Set this to be 150. So crank that all the way up. And we're now going to edit this gradient. We're going to make this color 51 DDFE. Whoops. 51 DDFE. Click OK. And this color we're going to make FFFFFF, which is essentially white. Click OK. There is our final snowbank. Okay? Click OK. Now, depending on the size of your snowbanks, yours may look a little different than this, but that's essentially what we're looking for. Now let's create a new layer. We are going to select a brush. A soft rounded brush like this. We're going to set the opacity here to 20%. We're going to set the master diameter of this to be 100%, or 100 pixels, sorry. And this is going to represent the shadows on these snow hills. And so what you can do here is go out to your canvas and just lightly go over top of this, and it will lighten up some of your snowbank. Okay? Give it more of a powdery effect. Oops, maybe not there. Okay, so just use that to lighten it up and give it more of a snow powdered effect. Now we're essentially done the scene. So the final task we have here is we are going to create a snowman. So let us choose the ellipse tool. And let us create the beginnings of our snowman. There it is. Notice the effects are still all applied. That's okay, we'll open up the effects panel. Our inner glow, we'll leave as screen, we'll leave it as 75. We will change the size of it to 6. And that's all good. Then for our gradient, leave this as normal, leave that as 100. Set this again to radial. And let's change this to 121. Okay, and turn this down to about 109. And there is at least the first snowball for our snowman. So let's change this to be 27 BC FE. Click OK. And let's change this one to be FB FFFF. Click OK. Click OK. And we're done. Now, because we already have one of these, and no sense reinventing the wheel, let's just copy this snowball. We can move it up a little higher, and we can transform it to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, and move it into place, hit enter. Copy that snowball, move it up, Command T, and shrink it down in size and press enter when you're done. Okay, so there is our snowman. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a layer style from the layers panel, and we are going to, well, I guess what we need to do is create the buttons here. So let's take our ellipse tool again, and we will make a button for the snowman, and bringing up our effects panel, okay, we're going to set the fill to 0. Okay. And now we are going to add a drop shadow to this as well. So go open up your panel, click on drop shadow, leave this as multiply, leave that as black, change this to be 16, leave this as 505, and you can see that's shown up there. Okay, click OK. And then for our gradient, what we want to do here is change this back to a linear gradient. And obviously we need to change the colors a little bit. So let's change this to 166, or around that area. Let's change this to 64. And we obviously need to change the colors because these aren't great colors for the buttons. So let's change this to be C6 3224. It's not very orangey, but it's good enough. If you want to make it more orangey, just adjust it. Click OK. And for this color, let's go with EE6C48. Click OK. And there is our first button. Okay? Click OK. And that's great. Now, if you want to go one step further, what would be actually good to do is put on a stroke so you get that effect around it. This can be set to 2 or 3. Change the color to be a gradient because we're working with gradients here. Okay, leave it linear. Change the angle to this direction because that's the direction we're working with. And we obviously need to edit this gradient. So what we're going to do here is change this color to be 543932. Click OK. And change this color to be B26354. Click OK. Okay, so got a nice little button effect going on there. Click OK. And OK. Now again, we already have this shape made, so just copy it. Copy it and move it into the next place. You could transform that, maybe rotate it a little bit if you want, resize it, make it a little bigger. Apply that transformation. And maybe duplicate that one more time. Move that down to the bottom, and you can transform that. Maybe rotate it a bit. Okay, so it looks like the buttons on a snowman. Alright, now to make the snowman's nose. Again, we're going to use the ellipse tool. Let's draw a circle on the snowman's face. Bring up our effects. Okay, we don't want to drop shadow on his nose. We do want an inner shadow, however, okay, to make it look like it's kind of protruding out. And we'll leave this at 16. We'll set this to 4. Set this to 3. And set this to 6. Okay, that's good. We don't need a glow on this one. We do need a gradient overlay. So leave everything the way it's set up here, except change this to a radial again. So again, it makes it look like it's sticking out just a little bit more. And then of course, we're going to double click on here and we are going to edit these colors. So we'll change this one to be F8 B D 77. Click OK. And change this one to be 9B 4126. Click OK. And if you're not happy with that color, you can adjust the color to make it maybe just a little bit lighter. Okay. And then click OK. Now what we need is we need a brush. So a simple brush tool. Making sure that it is set to a hard round brush. Okay, so this time we're going to use a hard round brush and create a brand new layer. Whoops. Set your color, turn your opacity back up, and set your color to black. And you can create the face for your snowman. So and then finally, to make the arms for your snowman, I would suggest using just a simple line tool. You can adjust the weight to what you feel would be good for a snowman's arms. Take the style off of it, leave the color as black. Maybe I'll go with a little bit bigger weight. And draw your snowman some arms. Okay, that's the finished product that MTS used as a marketing campaign and made, and the guy who developed this made millions of dollars. So just goes to show you, with some simple tools and a little bit of know-how in Photoshop, you can do a lot of different things. Okay, so save your assignment and put it in the Dropbox.